Welcome to another episode of A Bad Idea of a Podcast. Today I have, an international guest. We have people from Germany, from the US, from the UK, from Finland, and now we travel all the way to Toronto, Canada. So I have Jack Cassar on the other side of the line. But before I give you the word, Jack, uh, I need to do a bad idea of a podcast introduction. Okay.
Yeah.
So just and now it's time to introduce the 2022 Grey Cup champion. Number 45 in the jersey, but number 1 in the heart of all their fans. Out of Carleton University, Ottawa, Ontario, 2019 first team All-Canadian, and the most valuable player and linebacker in the CFL. He is Jack Cassar.
Let's go.
How you doing,
say.
How you doing? All good?
Yeah, doing well. Doing well.
Perfect.
It's been a long couple of days. I actually just flew back from Dubai, so I got off the plane at like 7 a.m. this morning. So I'm pretty tired, but I went straight to the field, ran with my team, worked out with the team, and then came home. So yeah, it's been
Glad you mentioned Dubai. I want to know this. I know that you play American football in Dubai. How was it? How was that?
It was very different. Like when I first started, that was actually where I first started playing football in general. I was living overseas there for about 3 years, and they started a league, a 7-on-7 football league, because we didn't have enough guys to play 11-on-11 or a 12-on-12 football. So we played 7-on-7 football in a baseball field. It was super unorganized, but I mean, it was still fun to get out there and, get everyone playing football who wanted to play over in the Middle East. And that's kind of what kickstarted my career playing football was over in Dubai.
Nice. And for you, because now you're a Grey Cup champion and you have a couple of years playing in the CFL. And for you, what was the inspiration that make you decided to play professional in Canada?
The inspiration to play professional in Canada, probably just because, I always just loved the game of football. And then, to be able to play the game of football on top of, being paid to play for it as a profession is something pretty special. So it's I don't even really consider it work to me, because it's something I love to do. But of course, like, end of the day, I mean, my dream always growing up was to play in the NFL.
Yeah.
And as a Canadian kid, it's still amazing to play in the Canadian Football League. I guess in my eyes, it's the next best thing to the NFL. We have a bunch of guys on every team in the CFL who played in the NFL at some point in their career. And some guys, even who have success here in the CFL, they then go to the States and play a few years in the NFL as well. So but yeah, man, it's been super cool to be able to play in the CFL and to play at my home team where I grew up as well.
Nice. And what's the thing that you like the most to play in the CFL? Because as you mentioned, like every professional athlete or every professional football player want to play in the NFL. But for you, what is the thing that you like the most of playing in the CFL?
The most about playing in the CFL, I guess, just with how unique of a game it is. It's not like your typical football, American football that you watch, on Sundays for NFL, because there's some different rules. The field's bigger. There's one less down, which makes you want to pass the ball a little bit more, which I find a little more exciting to watch. And yeah, I mean, there's just certain aspects to the game that make it a little different and unique, but also more interesting, I find, than the NFL.
What is the most difficult thing to explain and to adapt, like playing the CFL?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain rules in the CFL that are very difficult to explain, and most people wouldn't understand who know football, traditional American football. I mean, certain rules, like they have something called the rouge, where if the ball is kicked through the end zone, not within the uprights, it's 1 point. So just certain rules like this, some people don't understand. Um, but yeah, I mean that's kind of what makes the CFL a unique game because it has all these different kind of rules. But I mean, at the same time, it's still football. There's still 12 guys on a field, and everything's similar. Like you're still running plays, like running plays, passing plays. Everything like that is very similar, but at the same time, there is small little unique rules that we do have that people don't really understand sometimes until they actually
Yeah.
watch.
And for you, for example, every people that play American football or play any type of sport, they have like an athlete that they admire when they were a kid. In your case, which athlete or which professional player was the guy who inspired you to say, you know what, I want to play linebacker, I want to do this and that?
Yeah, for me, it wasn't really a linebacker at my position who I aspired in football. Like I always wanted to be a quarterback. Like
Oh,
I mean,
really?
I feel like a lot of kids always wanted to be a quarterback because you're the face of the team. You get the ball in your hands every play.
Yeah.
Um, so at the time, it was always Tom Brady growing up who aspired me, not
Yeah.
only because of his career and he's known to be one of the best to ever play football, but because of his story coming up and him being able to say that, he's really started from the bottom of the depth chart and then, worked his way up to becoming the best player ever. And I kind of see myself in a similar position as him, in terms of his success and his story from starting uh, at the bottom.
And for you, Jack, what makes you different from all the other linebackers in Canada or in the CFL?
What makes me different, I
Yeah.
find, is you know, I guess I want to say my work ethic
Yeah.
is something that kind of separates myself. I'm a player who likes to kind of work in the dark, as people say. Um, I'm not one posting all the time about me working out and this and that, but I feel like, I myself know what I can do in terms of my work ethic and what I bring to the table for myself.
Yeah.
Um, so I think just being able to be a player who just constantly works at his craft and tries to be the best that he can be,
Of
which
course,
separates.
like, yeah, I mean, because as you mentioned, like, try to be the best version of yourself every day, right?
Yeah.
And for example, like going a little bit like wider in terms of the CFL, what do you think that the CFL can work to get better and to get closer to the NFL?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I have a lot of those questions too all the time, and a lot of guys in the league do. But something that, I find and a lot of other people find is the marketing of the CFL. I mean, like, I don't know if some of the viewers that are going to be watching are going to be in Europe. I'm sure none of them have even heard about what the CFL is, but um, yeah, I feel like more people can learn about the CFL game in Canada, and I think they can do a better job marketing. But at the same time, you need a little more capital to be able to spend on things like marketing. But I think that's something that the CFL should really focus on, is really getting their brand out there to people who don't know the league or people who don't really aren't too interested, but I think that's a big thing that the league could do for itself.
Nice. Yeah, of course. I mean, because also I think that it happens like in both ways because probably here in Europe, people probably doesn't know that much about the CFL, but probably in Canada as well, people doesn't know that much about the ELF or probably the Europe, like the American football here in Europe, because even the people itself here in Germany or here in Europe doesn't know that they have professional teams and so on. So I think it's something like general. And for you, besides marketing, what do you think that American football community can do to spread the word that they have really good football in Canada, really good football in Germany or in Europe in general?
Football community, I mean, I think the best thing to do is just putting out a good product,
Yeah.
having exciting games for the fans to watch. I saw it for myself, in my 3 years as a CFL player. Um, Toronto's not really known to have the best fan base in the league because we have to compete with a lot of other professional sports markets like the Toronto Blue Jays, Toronto
Yeah.
Raptors, Toronto FC, which is a soccer team here,
Hmm.
um, Toronto Maple Leafs, which is huge.
And probably the Bills as well, because I mean
And
the proximity with Buffalo, it's like really, really close, right?
yeah, I mean, to get to New Era Stadium from Toronto, it's about probably an hour and a half drive.
Hmm.
So yeah, absolutely, the Buffalo Bills would be a competitor for us as well. But I think yeah, the biggest thing would just be at putting out a good product. And like I said, I've been on the team for 3 years, and each year we've progressed as a team, and the fans have noticed that and have been, coming to the games more often now. And our fan attendance has increased because we're putting out a good product for them to watch. We're not getting blown out, losing all these games. We're
Yeah.
we're making them exciting games. We're having a success. So that brings the fans back.
And for example, Jack, what do you think about like this is just an idea that what if to put like a better product you have like more international players, or do you think that it's necessary only to focus on local talent?
I think a little bit of both. I
Okay.
think the way we have it right now is pretty good, in terms of local talent, in terms of our international players. And I'm not sure if you guys know this or not, but we even have like a global aspect to the game now where we have to have one global player, global as in a non-American Canadian player. So I
Yeah.
guess some teams have, I mean, Europe is a majority of our global guys, and Australia. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think the way we have it right now is fine in terms of the players that we have in the league.
For example, I know something and I want to know your opinion because here in Germany, and there's a lot of players that go to or went to the CFL combine, and also like players from Mexico. I'm from Mexico, so like I know that there's a lot of people from the LFA that went to the CFL combine. Do you think that like attracting those talents are gonna make the CFL more appealing to internet non-Canadian fans?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's been working out so far in terms of our global aspect. But at the same time, it's hard to tell because a lot of those international fans, like here in Canada, are watching the NFL,
Yeah,
um, and other sports as well. But I do believe that having this global aspect in our league is increasing fans in other countries. I think the game of football is growing around the world, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. So I think it's just better to get the name, the football sport out there, and the CFL name out there in
yeah,
all countries as much as we can.
yeah. And now, like a following question about this topic, because I also speak it with some like players here in Germany, and I have this idea in my head. What if the CFL champion, the Great Cup champion, and the ELF champion, and the Mexican champion, and the X League champion in Japan, like play a round robin together? What like? Can you imagine that?
That would be pretty interesting, playing other teams in different countries. That's something you could you would think that would be, success and bring a large audience because it's so unique to have, two different teams from across the country, especially with an established league like the CFL,
Yeah,
playing a team in Europe or something. Um, that would definitely be an interesting concept for sure. But um, the CFL's been around for I think 110 years now.
yeah.
And a couple of those years they've added American teams. I don't know how much of a success that was, but yeah, who knows? Down the road, maybe we'll be playing some team in Europe or something like that.
Yeah, that will be
Pretty
pretty
cool.
crazy because I
Mhm.
mean, probably I'm a little bit biased about this, but I know that there's so many talent, first of all, in Mexico, and of course here in Germany and in Europe in general, because you saw players from Italy, from Sweden, from Paris. I mean, the level of talent that I have, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But I want to get back to know more about you because I want like, can you describe yourself as a player in 4 words?
In 4 words,
Yeah,
like 4 different words.
yeah.
aggressive, agile, fast, and smart.
Okay. Okay, so that those are the four attributes that make you different, and as you mentioned, like your work ethic as well. And for example, with the aggressiveness, what do you like the most about the game? Because I play American football like back on the days, but I
Yep.
always love the contact and I always like try to hit people. That's what
Yep.
you like about the game?
Yeah, I mean that's what I love about the game. I've always had that aspect um in the game of football, and it's something that's always, wanted me to play the game of football because, I've always been an aggressive athlete. I've never wanted to play a sport like soccer or basketball where there's, no contact. I've always
Yeah,
been strictly hockey, football, rugby. I'm playing high contact sports, and it's something I've always liked to do and something I'm good at, and I get to use my size.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, those who play football at a professional level, I'm sure have very similar um,
Yeah,
thoughts
mindset.
that
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Because I mean, also you're like a huge guy because you're a 6'4", 240 pounds.
mhm.
So that's a pretty good size to play linebacker and also to play rugby or to play hockey, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a big size, but at the same time, I feel like it's kind of uncommon for guys to be that size at hockey. And I had the issue of always, whenever I'm playing hockey, I'm like, I guess almost 6'8" on skates.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of the times, whenever I went to go make an aggressive hit, my shoulder would be at their head
Yeah.
because hockey players aren't typically as big as football players. So I'd
Yeah.
always get penalties for hitting to the head and stuff like that. So that started actually becoming an issue later down in my hockey career. But then, whenever played football, we never had an issue like that. So that's, part of the reason why I even transitioned into
Yeah, yeah,
that
of course.
sport.
Yeah, because you're gonna be like almost 7 foot. Like no, that's too much for a hockey player.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
hockey players aren't typically as big as football players, but yeah, it was a disadvantage sometimes being that
that's
tall.
all. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can imagine. Man, I want to know more about like how is the Canadian fans because um we saw recently that the NFL is like making it global, the game, right? Quote unquote. Um, But the thing is, how's the Canadian fans? They're rooting more about the NFL or the CFL, or like they like both leagues as well.
Yeah, I think the Canadian fans, I think a lot of them are just football fans, like they like NFL, they like CFL.
Okay.
Um, but those who do come to the games in the CFL, they're very passionate fans, and um, yeah, they make the game exciting for us players on the field by them, bringing the energy each and every game. It might not be as much as you think, like a college football game where you're watching 100,000 fans in the stands, but even some of the games where we had 15,000, 17,000 fans in the stands, it felt like there was maybe 50,000 fans in the stands
Yeah.
because, they just brought such a good energy to the games for us. And, yeah, I mean, they're a big part of the reason why, uh, we're able to even play the game
Yeah.
in this football.
Of course. And for example, this is gonna be the second to last question, right? I want to know because at the beginning of the podcast, I tried to do like a high presentation to all the guests that I have. And but for you, what's like the thing that get you going before any game? Like a song, like do you have any ritual or something like that?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and it's very basic. I'm just someone who likes to listen to, music and do his stretching. I like to have a nice warm cup of coffee before the game just to get the blood flowing a little bit.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it's nothing very crazy and exciting for my pregame ritual. Um, whenever we get into warm-ups with our team before the game, we do a little circuit as the linebackers and we do a little tackling drill. And, sometimes I like to go and hit my guys pretty hard just to kind of wake us up.
yeah.
We're about to like go to battle on the football field. So, that's our opportunity to kind of like set our pads and, you know, get us going for that game.
Okay. Okay. Now the final question before the last 2 minutes. But how do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years time?
Yeah. I see myself as a football player or
Yeah, as a
just in
football
general.
player. Yeah,
Yeah. I see myself in 3 to 5 years, being the face of a professional football team in the CFL,
nice.
being one of the best middle linebackers in the CFL, if not the best, and leading our team to a championship or Grey Cup is what we call it here.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I mean, I think that you're in the right path because you were drafted in 2020. Of course, the 2020 season doesn't play because like the COVID
COVID, yeah.
situation, right? And
Yeah.
then you have in 2021 you have an injury, but then you come back, and then in 2022 you have the Grey Cup championship. Now
Yeah.
2023, of course, was a little bit different, but how do you see yourself? Well, not yourself, the team, the Argonauts. How do you see the team for 2024?
I think we're just going to be building off of what we had this year. We had a very successful year this year, and although we've had some coaching staff changes in the off season, I still think our front office and our core group of guys on the team that are currently still under contract, um, are gonna help us get to where we need to go in terms of winning another Grey Cup. So I
Nice.
think basically just sticking to the path of what we say is 2% better every single day, and I still believe that is something that we have to do in the off season as well. And
Yeah.
if it's for us players training and getting ready for the season, or if it's for the front office with their scouting and bringing in new guys to help us get to that promised land of winning the Grey Cup.
Yeah. Nice. Now the final part of the podcast, right? So the show is called A Bad Idea for Podcast. So now it's your time to talk about a bad idea that happened to you that probably in the end turned out to be a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, bad idea for myself. At the time I was playing a high level hockey. I always wanted to play in the NHL. That was my goal. I was going to a hockey school out in Saskatchewan. Um, but at that time I just fell in love with the game of football, and I wanted to stick to one sport
Yeah.
and really focus on that sport solely so I could make it professionally instead of having to play two sports. Um, and then at the time I quit hockey, which is a huge decision for myself. And at the time I thought it was a bad idea,
Yeah.
but it turned out to be a great idea because now I'm able to play professional football, and I
Yeah.
got to focus on football those remaining years of high school and in college. And then now I get to say I'm a professional football player. So I guess that's a bad idea that turned to a good idea.
It's a really good bad idea,
Yeah,
actually, because now you have a ring on your finger,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool, man. And finally, just we have a couple seconds left, but do you have any advice for people to want to pursue a professional career in football?
Yeah. I mean, something similar to what I did. You really have to get your name out there. You got to reach out to every contact you have in terms of football. And, I would, I mean, for those who are watching in Europe or anywhere around the world, I would do your best to, come and play high school/university football here in North America, because that's going to be your best bet to making it in the pros, whether it's in the CFL or NFL. I know there's
Yeah.
EFL now, but playing in those high quality university football teams in the States and
Yeah.
in Canada, uh, not just university but high school as well.
Yeah.
Um, that's probably your best opportunity to make it professional as a football player.
Okay, that's a good advice for sure. So Jack, I really appreciate like the time that you have with us, the energy that you bring, because you see like a really like serious dude, but of course you have like a lot of energy because you are the face of the defense, right? And you're
Yeah,
the face of your franchise right now. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for like for all the energy on all like everything that you bring on today. So
yeah,
I really appreciate it.
yeah. No problem, and thanks for having me. I had a good time.
Thank you, man. So see you around. Okay.
Yeah. See ya. Cheers.
Thank you.